Picture this: Babylon, 323 BC. A young king, only 32, lies dying in a palace filled with generals who already dream of dividing his empire. In our history, they got their wish. But in this world, everything changes, because Alexander does not die. He opens his eyes, and the world shivers. The physicians of Babylon, helpless in our timeline, discover the cause just in time: a parasitic fever carried from the swamps near the Euphrates. They cool the king with ice imported from the Zagros Mountains. They force bitter wine infused with herbs down his throat. And on the dawn of the 7th day, Alexander's breathing steadies. The generals stare in disbelief. Their secret ambitions collapse like dust. The most relentless conqueror in history rises from his bed. A man who believes he is destined not just to rule, but to unite the world. The empire he built is enormous, too enormous. From Greece to Egypt, from Persia to the mountains of Bactria, rebellions simmer. His army is tired, his administrators overworked, and his treasury strained by years of war. But Alexander sees something his generals do not. He knows conquest alone won't hold this world together. He begins to imagine something new: a blended empire of Greeks, Persians, Egyptians, and Indians, ruled not by fear, but by a shared idea: the idea of a universal state. On the day he first strolls outside the palace after his recovery, citizens kneel in shock. Some cry, some whisper that he returned from the dead. And Alexander, seeing the vastness of Babylon stretching before him, the symbol of all his conquests, makes a secret vow: the world will not fracture when he dies someday. He will build a system that will outlive him. His new target is not on the battlefield. It is history itself. With his strength returning, Alexander calls for an emergency assembly of his commanders. The room is filled with men who, only weeks earlier, were quietly preparing to carve up the empire. Now they stand speechless. Alexander spreads a massive map across a marble table, not of lands already conquered, but of lands still untouched. Arabia, the Western Mediterranean, the kingdoms beyond India, even Rome, still a rising city-state, sits quietly on the edge of his vision. For the first time in weeks, his generals feel something familiar: fear. Alexander begins with the most practical expansion: Arabia. In our timeline, he had already planned this invasion. He even commissioned fleets and ordered shipbuilders to prepare the harbors of the Persian Gulf. In this alternate world, the expedition sails. Arabian tribes, seeing the sheer power of the Macedonian phalanx and war elephants from India, offer little unified resistance. Within 2 years, the incense kingdoms of the south and their enormous trade wealth fall under Alexander's influence. More importantly, this gives him complete control of the Red Sea, creating the first true bridge between the Mediterranean and the Indian Ocean. A global empire begins to take shape. Alexander isn't finished. His earlier invasion of India ended at the Hyphasis River, where war-weary troops refused to continue. But 20 more years means fresh armies, new alliances, and a deeper understanding of the terrain. This time, Alexander marches east with elephants, improved supply lines, and thousands of local allies. He defeats the remaining Indian kingdoms one by one, not by brute force, but by diplomacy, marriages, and incorporation into his empire. The Indo-Greek world in this timeline becomes not a footnote, but a superpower. But Alexander's most ambitious plan comes last. He prepares a grand campaign westward, toward Carthage and toward Rome. Carthage, rich and powerful, controls enormous sea routes. Rome, still small but fierce, grows by the year. Alexander sees the future, and he knows if he leaves the Mediterranean unchecked, the empire he built could someday face a rival as unstoppable as he once was. His solution? Do not wait for Rome to rise. Meet it while it's young. Historians often debate whether these campaigns were realistic. But with 20 more years, the math changes dramatically. He already controlled the wealth of Persia and Egypt. Arabia would supply unlimited trade revenue. India would add manpower and war elephants. His administrative reforms would make rebellions far less likely. His generals, now loyal again, could command professional armies. With time, money, and the most brilliant military strategist in history, Alexander could reshape the world before Rome or Carthage ever reached their peak. And the world is about to find out what that means. Fresh from victories across Arabia and India, Alexander sets his sights not on war, but on administration. He realizes something every emperor learns too late. An empire held by the sword alone dies by the sword alone. So Alexander orders the construction of a new monumental capital, Alexandria Ultima, the final Alexandria. Built near the crossroads of Persia, Mesopotamia, and Arabia, it becomes the political heart of the empire. A city of marble palaces, vast libraries, observatories, and temples, all blending Greek, Persian, and Indian architecture. It is the world's first true multicultural capital. Alexander confronts the biggest threat to his empire: distance. He restructures everything. Provinces are reorganized into large administrative zones. Local kings keep their thrones, but under strict Macedonian oversight. Greek becomes the international language of court, diplomacy, and science. A standardized tax system replaces chaotic regional ones. Roads and communication routes stretch from Greece to India. For the first time in history, a single government truly connects Europe, Africa, and Asia. Alexander understood something remarkable for his time. Culture can conquer where armies cannot. He promotes a radical idea, one that shocks Greek traditionalists. All peoples under my rule are equals. He encourages mixed marriages, exchange of scholars, joint religious festivals, combined military units. Greek philosophy meets Persian astronomy. Egyptian mathematics merges with Indian medicine. Poets translate scriptures from Sanskrit to Greek and from Greek to Aramaic. A new culture is born. Hellenistic globalism, centuries ahead of its time. Alexander does not attempt to erase religions. Instead, he tries to unite them. He funds a project unprecedented in history, a universal temple honoring Zeus, Ahura Mazda, Amon-Ra, and Shiva, and the ancestral gods of Persia, India, Greece, and Egypt. The temple doesn't merge religions, it merges respect. Priests debate peacefully. Philosophers exchange ideas. Mystics write texts that spread across continents. This spiritual openness creates a world less divided by faith and more curious about it. Alexander reforms his military into a permanent standing force, the first truly international army in history. It includes Macedonian phalanx, Persian cavalry, Indian war elephants, Egyptian engineers, Scythian horse archers, trained year-round, paid directly by the imperial treasury, loyal not to a general, but to the empire itself. This force becomes the hammer with which Alexander shapes the coming decades. News of Alexander's reforms and victories spreads across the Mediterranean like wildfire. Rome hears the rumors. Alexander has created an empire larger than anything the world has ever seen. He has elephants from India, engineers from Egypt, cavalry from Persia. He plans to reach the Pillars of Hercules. Carthage hears them too, and for the first time in centuries, Rome and Carthage share the same fear. A single man is uniting half the world. If he turns west, no city is safe. Alexander studies Rome and Carthage carefully. He admires Rome's discipline, but sees its weakness. Politically unstable, expanding too fast, generals competing for power. Carthage, on the other hand, has the strongest navy of its time, but suffers from internal divisions and mercenary dependence. Alexander creates a plan. Secure Egypt's coastlines. Expand naval bases along North Africa. Build a Mediterranean fleet. Greek shipbuilders, Persian wood supplies, and Egyptian crews. Break Carthage diplomatically. Support their rebellious client states. Turn Rome's enemies into allies. Etruscans, Samnites, and Greek colonies in Italy. He prepares for a war he might not even need to fight. Alexander wants control, but he prefers to win through pressure, not destruction. Rome miscalculates. Believing Alexander is distracted by his reforms, they invade a Greek colony in southern Italy to warn him. It is the worst mistake Rome could make. Alexander responds instantly. He sends 20,000 elite troops across the Mediterranean. His fleet blockades Roman supply routes. Greek cities in Italy rise in rebellion. Rome realizes it has provoked the most powerful man on earth. Senators debate in panic. Some want peace. Others want to fight. Most want time. But Alexander does not give them any. In our timeline, Rome fought Pyrrhus and nearly lost. In this alternate world, Rome faces someone far more dangerous. The Battle of Tarentum becomes legendary. Alexander's phalanxes hold the center. Indian elephants break the Roman lines. Persian cavalry disintegrates Rome's flanks. Greek hoplites sweep the coastal fortifications. Engineering units destroy Roman siege towers. Rome suffers a defeat so shocking, historians say the Tiber ran red for days. This is the moment the Mediterranean realizes Rome is not inevitable. Carthage chooses survival. They open their ports to Alexander's fleets. They sign trade deals, send ambassadors, and swear loyalty. Carthage becomes an ally, not by force, but by fear. Rome is cornered, surrounded, exhausted. And then Alexander does something unthinkable. He spares Rome, not out of mercy, but strategy. He forces them into a protectorate, tribute every year, Greek overseers in the Senate, no expansion without imperial approval. Rome becomes a regional power, forever denied its future destiny. The world changes in a single generation. Alexander knows that conquered lands can revolt, but integrated lands become eternal. So he begins an unprecedented project. 1. Cultural fusion. He promotes marriages between Greeks, Persians, Egyptians, Jews, Phoenicians, and Mesopotamians. He wants the world to see itself as one people. 2. A universal currency. Coins stamped not with his face, but a symbol of unity. A sunburst to represent all peoples under one sky. 3. A multilingual empire. Local languages stay. Greek becomes the administrative language. Education reforms begin everywhere. 4. Equal rights for soldiers. Persian cavalry serves beside Macedonian infantry. Egyptian engineers work with Greek philosophers. India sends astronomers and mathematicians. The empire stops looking like Greece and begins looking like the world's first multicultural civilization. Alexander saw what Egypt could become, but he also saw what lay beyond it. North Africa. He builds roads and ports from Libya to Tunisia. Carthage is turned into the empire's naval jewel. Berber tribes become crucial allies. Nubia. Instead of invading, he forms a royal marriage alliance. Trade flourishes, gold, ivory, and agriculture. The Ethiopian highlands. Alexander sends scholars, not soldiers. They map Ethiopia's mountains years before any other civilization. For the first time, the Mediterranean and East Africa become truly connected. Most conquerors avoid the cold north. Alexander does not. Guided by Greek explorers, he goes beyond the Alps, contacts early Germanic tribes, opens trade routes into Celtic lands, establishes frontier outposts in the Danube region, creates alliances with tribes that would later challenge Rome in our world. He has no desire to conquer the forests outright, but he wants influence everywhere. Even the frozen lands whisper his name. Alexander returns to Egypt to create his masterpiece, a city built to unite the world, a library designed to store every idea from every culture, universities where Persian mathematicians sit beside Greek philosophers, temples dedicated to gods from across the empire, a lighthouse to guide ships from 3 continents, courts of law where Greeks and non-Greeks are judged equally. This Alexandria becomes the heart of a global civilization, the place where, if a man knows something, the empire must know it too. Knowledge becomes a weapon as powerful as any army. Alexander realizes something profound. Land is finite. The ocean is not. He becomes obsessed with the idea of a world beyond the horizon. He gathers shipbuilders from Phoenicia, astronomers from Babylon, navigators from India, engineers from Egypt. His secret project begins: the Oceanic Fleet, the largest exploration fleet the ancient world has ever seen. His goal is to reach lands unknown to any empire. Some say he dreams of circumnavigating Africa. Others believe he seeks a Western continent. Many think he simply seeks immortality. What matters is this: Alexander stops thinking like a conqueror and starts thinking like a world architect. Alexander knows his empire is too vast to survive chaos. He must secure a successor. But there is a problem. He has no legitimate adult heir. He considers 3 options. 1. His half-brother, Arrhidaeus, strong but mentally unfit, a puppet for ambitious generals. 2. His unborn child, too young, through powerless. The future cannot wait. 3. A successor chosen by merit, not blood, but brilliance. For the first time in history, Alexander contemplates replacing dynastic rule with meritocratic leadership. A council of philosophers and generals is formed. Their task to design a new system of succession. His dream is not a monarchy. His dream is a stable, centralized world state. But time is slipping away. Alexander writes a series of what historians call the final papers, documents outlining the next 200 years of imperial policy. They contain three revolutionary ideas. 1. The unified legal code. All people, regardless of origin, would be equal under a single set of laws, a concept that will not truly appear in our world until the Enlightenment. 2. The empire-wide education system. Schools from India to Spain teaching astronomy, mathematics, medicine, navigation, military engineering, philosophy. Knowledge becomes the empire's greatest export. 3. The Great Road of the World. A superhighway from Iberia to India, crossing deserts and mountains, lined with outposts, wells, and relay stations. Trade would flow like blood through a single global artery. Alexander's dream is nothing less than globalization, born 2,000 years early. Even as he plans the future, Alexander cannot suppress the explorer within him. He prepares a new campaign, the Arabian expedition. But this time, there is no war objective. Instead, mapping the deep deserts, studying strange wildlife, establishing scientific outposts, charting maritime routes to East Africa, building ports connecting the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean. He dreams of turning Arabia into the empire's great trade nexus. He tells his scholars, "We know the lands of men. Now we must know the lands of the gods." It is his final adventure. As his fleet prepares to depart from Babylon, Alexander attends a banquet. Witnesses claim a strange omen appeared. A sudden storm over the palace. A torch blown out by wind indoors. A hawk landing on a ship's mast. Superstition fills the air. That night, Alexander feels fever rise inside him. He becomes weak, then delirious. Some say poison. Some say disease. Some say exhaustion finally claimed him. But all agree on one thing. The empire held its breath. As his condition worsens, his generals gather around him. They ask, "To whom do you leave the empire?" He whispers the line that becomes the most debated sentence in ancient history. "To the strongest, but guided by the wise." Not a name, a philosophy. His final order, that the empire must remain united, and the council of scholars must guide the throne until a worthy successor rises. With that, the greatest conqueror of antiquity and the greatest visionary humanity never fully understood closes his eyes. His dream is unfinished, but still a lie. In the golden courts of Constantinople, ambassadors speak in hushed tones. a council of scholars that can predict plagues, map the stars, build machines. How long before they decide who rules the world? The library's influence is no longer subtle. Every great empire wants its own piece of Alexandria. Two nations send spies, not to steal scrolls, but to steal the minds behind them. Archivists vanish. Caravans carrying manuscripts never reach their destinations. The first battle for global knowledge has begun, and it is fought in silence. Deep beneath the main halls, a secret chamber turns. Gears the size of shields, belts of oiled leather, pendulums, pressure weights, clockwork logic. It is the world's first analytical engine, a proto-computer built centuries earlier. It can calculate population growth, plague spread, crop failures, even the outcomes of war. And the archivists realize, if the world discovers this machine, every empire will burn the others to control it. For the first time, the council fractures. Do we share the machine with humanity, or hide it to protect humanity from itself? Some argue that knowledge belongs to all. Others argue that mankind cannot be trusted with the future. The debate becomes more dangerous than any weapon. For the first time in recorded history, the Library of Alexandria invites the rulers of the world to its gates. A letter arrives in every empire, sealed with blue wax and the symbol of an open eye. Come not as conquerors, but as witnesses to the future. Kings suspect a trap. Priests fear heresy. Generals prepare armies. Yet none dare refuse the invitation. In the library's grand hall, the archivists unveil a machine hidden for decades. A polished brass sphere with spiraling rings. But this time, the rings are moving by themselves. The celestial engine, a mechanical model of the solar system, so precise it can predict eclipses, tides, seasons, and celestial alignments for the next 5,000 years. Gasps echo through the hall. A single device has challenged every religion's calendar, every king's prophecy, every empire's sense of destiny. The visitors applaud, but beneath the applause is terror. If Alexandria can predict the heavens, can it not also predict politics, wars, rebellions, dynasties? A knowledge empire could rival any earthly empire, and rulers do not share power willingly. That night, as torches flicker outside the library, a cloaked figure slips into the guest chambers. A dagger, poisoned, a target. The first archivist, the visionary who designed the hidden machines. But the library is always watching. A hidden mechanism snaps open, a metal gate drops, and the assassin is trapped inside a corridor that suddenly becomes flooded with light. The assassin confesses under questioning. Multiple empires had already planned to seize the archivists and divide the library like spoils of war. The great unveiling did not create unity. It created fear, ambition, and a hunger for control. The archivists gather in their moonlit chamber. Knowledge is no longer a secret. War is coming. So they choose a drastic solution. We will not defend the library with walls or soldiers. We will defend it with spread knowledge. If every nation possesses the same wisdom, none will risk destroying the source. The archivists begin preparing a world-changing plan to mass-produce knowledge for the first time in history, centuries before the printing press. Deep beneath marble floors and candlelit halls lies a chamber no king had ever seen. Rows of gears, pulleys, levers, copper arms, rotating drums, a machine that had been only a dream, activated for the first time. The world's first semi-automated copying engine. Not quite a printing press, not quite a scribe. Something in between. A hybrid device that allows one writer to reproduce dozens of pages at once. The archivists place their most important manuscripts beside it. Star maps, medical treatises, agricultural techniques, engineering blueprints. The copying engine whirs to life. Metal arms scrape charcoal ink onto rolling parchment. For the first time in human civilization, the greatest texts ever written are being duplicated faster than destruction itself. Within days, thousands of identical manuscripts fill the halls, stacked in crates, wrapped in cloth, sealed with wax, ready to travel across continents. The library's motto becomes prophecy. What is known by few can be erased. What is known by all can never die. The archivists recruit a new order, the carriers of light, charlators, sailors, mercs, astronomers, and merchants, trained not only to transport manuscripts, but to teach the knowledge inside them. Each is given a sealed chest, a protection amulet of the library, and a single instruction. Go as far as you can. Teach as many as you meet. They depart in every direction, across the Mediterranean, along the Silk Road, south into Nubia, west toward Carthage and Iberia, north through the Balkans. The world becomes a network of learning, a global classroom, long before nations dream of universities. At first, rulers welcome the knowledge flood. Farmers increase crop yields. Merchants improve navigation. Physicians heal more lives. But then they see the unintended consequence. People start asking questions. Why does the king rule by divine right, if the stars follow mechanical laws? Why obey laws if knowledge reveals better solutions? Why fear priests if disease has natural causes? Curiosity becomes rebellion. Rebellion becomes reform. The first knowledge uprisings begin, peaceful but unstoppable. Empires tremble not from war, but from education. Scribes deliver letters to every court. Knowledge is water. Stop it, and it will drown you. Guide it, and it will feed you. Some rulers obey, some resist, some plot revenge. The great knowledge flood cannot be reversed, but its consequences have only begun. For the more the world learns, the more its people question, and questions can topple empires faster than armies. In a fortress lit by torchlight, 5 rulers gather in secret. They unroll a map, not of territories, but of the new knowledge routes created by Alexandria. Red lines for astronomy schools, blue lines for medical hubs, green lines for engineering circles, gold lines for philosophical guilds. Every colored path represents a place where their authority is slipping. Their power is no longer absolute. The people no longer fear them. Books, cheap, multiplied, unstoppable, have become the enemy. One king speaks what the others refuse to say. If Alexandria will not silence itself, we must silence it. The alliance is born, the covenant of thrones. 5 kingdoms united by fear. The covenant prepares for war, but they are already too late. Alexandrian innovations spread faster than their spies can report. Farms double output. Wells are dug deeper. Cities expand. Trade routes flourish. But the greatest shock comes from the battlefield. The first standardized military manuals, Alexandria prints thousands and teaches nations how to coordinate formations, how to maintain supply lines, how to construct efficient fortifications, how to build early torsion-powered siege engines, how to train soldiers using consistent drills. Ordinary armies become professional armies. Small nations defeat bigger ones for the first time. War becomes predictable, mathematical, efficient. The covenant wants war, but Alexandria has already rewritten war itself. Across the covenant's kingdoms, whispers fill the streets. Citizens read philosophy. Merchants study mathematics. Engineers sketch water mills and aqueducts. Doctors understand infections. Knowledge empowers the poor, strengthens the middle class, weakens the elite. Soon, the real threat isn't Alexandria, but their own people. Revolts break out, not with weapons, but with pamphlets, secretly copied by Alexandrian presses. The king is not divine. Wisdom is the right of all. Obedience without reason is slavery. Torches light the night. Crowds gather. Palaces shake. The covenant's rulers realize knowledge is not just an enemy, it's a fire, and it's spreading. Unable to stop the uprisings, the covenant friend this strategy. They form a clandestine force, the Order of Ash, masters of sabotage, infiltration, misinformation. Their mission? Infiltrate Alexandria, locate the copying engine, destroy the knowledge roots, eliminate the archivists, turn nations against the library. Their first tactic is deception. They spread forged manuscripts claiming Alexandria falsifies history. Astronomers worship forbidden gods. Engineers build weapons of mass destruction. Physicians practice dark rituals. Fear spreads. Distrust blooms. Neighboring states begin to question whether Alexandria's brilliance is a blessing or a trap. The archivists sense the coming storm. They respond not with armings, but with pure, overwhelming truth. They open the Hall of Lenses, a new building filled with giant magnifiers, reflective devices, optical experiments, and astronomical instruments unseen anywhere else in the world. For the first time ever, they publicly demonstrate science. Burning mirrors focusing sunlight, water-lifting machines, moving models of the solar system, early distillation tools, geometric proofs carved into marble panels. Crowds gather in tens of thousands. Kings lose control of their subjects. Knowledge becomes a spectacle, irrefutable, beautiful, undeniable. The covenant sees their nightmare taking shape. If the library continues, no ruler will ever command blind obedience again. And so, the covenant makes the most consequential decision in history. They will launch a holy war against Alexandria. The covenant's armies arrive at Alexandria under a moon so bright it looks like polished silver. Tens of thousands of soldiers stand before the greatest center of knowledge ever built. But the library is not a fortress. It has no towers, few walls. Its defense has always been ideas. Still, the archivists are ready. As the first siege engines roll forward, Alexandria goes dark. Every lantern extinguished, every window shut. Only one building glows faintly in the night, the lighthouse of Pharos. Its beam sweeps across the sea, then across the battlefield, as if watching both worlds at once. And then the horn sounds. The siege of Alexandria begins. The covenant unleashes fire. Trebuchets, flaming arrows, smoke designed to blind and panic. But Alexandria answers with weapons no army has ever seen. Mirrored defenses that redirect light into blinding flashes. Pressurized water pumps that extinguish fire faster than it can spread. Signal towers flashing coded light across the city to coordinate evacuation, shelter, Response: Archimedean engines that lift burning debris from rooftops like mechanical giants. Centuries ahead without ever having collapsed, innovation has given Alexandria the one thing the Covenant never expected: time. Enough time to protect what truly matters. Inside the library, the archivists gather around a massive bronze table etched with the world's knowledge roots. Every scholar, engineer, astronomer, physician, philosopher, historian, and translator waits in silence. The High Archivist speaks. If they destroy the library, the world returns to darkness. If we resist with violence, knowledge becomes a weapon. A dilemma older than civilization. How do you fight for ideas without betraying them? Then the astronomer Aristia rises. She proposes a path that will define the next 1,000 years. We do not defend the building. We defend the knowledge. We scatter it, so no army can ever burn it again. The room is silent. Then, one by one, every voice agrees. The library will not fall, because the library will no longer be a place. It will become a world. Under heavy bombardment, Alexandria performs the greatest evacuation in history. Caravans slip through hidden gates. Ships sail under the cover of Pharos' beam. Mounted riders cross deserts carrying only scroll cases. Every route, east, west, north, south, is filled with scholars dispersing knowledge. Mathematicians to India, astronomers to Persia, engineers to China, physicians to North Africa, philosophers to Greece and Arabia, mariners to the Mediterranean Isles, translators to the Levant. Each carries fragments of the library, never more than a handful of scrolls, but together forming a living constellation. The Covenant does not realize it, but they are not attacking a city. They are attacking a seed. And seeds are made to spread. At dawn, the Covenant's forces finally breach the gates. They rush inside, expecting treasures, expecting the heart of the world. Instead, they find quiet. No scrolls, no presses, no scholars. Only empty halls and echoing chambers filled with sunlight. The library still stands, but it is hollow. The Covenant has conquered the shell, not the soul. And as they wander its silent corridors, a message carved into the marble floor awaits them. Knowledge belongs to the world. That is the moment the war ends. Not with surrender, but with realization. You cannot defeat an idea that has already left the walls. Decades pass. The Covenant collapses under the weight of its own fear. But the library survives in 1,000 places at once. In engineering academies rising in China. In astronomical observatories across Persia. In early hospitals in North Africa. In shipbuilding schools on Mediterranean shores. In philosophy circles throughout Greece and India. In mathematics guilds forming trade routes. In universities shaped by knowledge refugees. Humanity accelerates, not through empire, but through collaboration. The world sees something our timeline never fully achieved. A global knowledge age, born centuries early. Final reflection. The world that never burned. What if the Library of Alexandria had never been destroyed? This alternate world tells us knowledge doesn't thrive in one place. It thrives when it spreads. A single spark can light a city, but 1,000 sparks can light a world. And in this timeline, Alexandria never died. It became everywhere. A world transformed, not by conquest, not by kings, not by armies, but by ideas brilliant enough to outlive fire.